So,
Uh,
I guess I would say you're probably one of the OG members of the Skeptic community, and something that's kind of happened, and you've talked about this and got a lot of hate for it as well, is so when you made that video saying how the alt right like took over the Skeptic community, you got a lot of hate for that. But it's very true that the Skeptic community has flipped right. It's very clear, and with it's starting out as kind of being anti-Christianity, now it's flipping right. I was wondering what your thoughts are on that, how it happened, and just how do you feel about it now?
well, first off, I made a video talking about how the skeptic community was turned alt-right. I want to clarify. Back in the day, like a year and a half ago, before Trump was president, alt-right had a different connotation than it does now.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's pretty much completely racist. But
Uh-huh.
back then, even black people, Asian people were calling themselves alt-right. It was like a hot new buzzword in the conservative community. So what I considered alt-right then is now known as alt-light, basically.
Oh, okay.
So I want to make that clarification. So when I say that the skeptic community is turned alt-right, I'm not really talking about racism so much. I mean, there's a lot of that in there too. I'm not saying there's not, but when I said people like, Armor Skeptic and TJ and, Chris Ray Gun and people were alt-right, what I meant was they're basically alt-light because
I see.
the terminology has changed. But the reason it happened basically was because people got sick of Christian videos. People want to hate on things. Hating on things makes you feel good about yourself,
Mm-hmm.
releases pleasurable chemicals in your brain. But people got bored of the religious videos, and so the trend switched, and all the channels had to find something new to entertain their audiences with and make money and garner fame. And so they all jumped on the anti-social justice warrior bandwagon. They
Yeah.
went out to the internet and they nuts pick. That's my favorite word. Nut picking is basically where you go out and find the crazies, and then you introduce the crazies to your
Uh,
audience and pretend like they're a representative of
yeah.
the entire group, which they're not. Most of
Yeah.
these left wing people they pick are not representative of people I know. I'm a left wing guy or a liberal, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the things they claim social justice warriors and lefties believe in, me and my friends, we don't believe in that. We're all about free speech. We don't care if somebody speaks.
Yeah.
Um, but I guess to answer your question, I think mostly it happened because these people were looking for fame and money. And so they just jumped on the bandwagon and they rode it hard. And they don't really give a shit that what they're doing is actually empowering conservatives, helping conservatives take and maintain power. Even
Yeah.
though most of these people call themselves liberals, like, Shoe on Head, Armored Skeptic, Ray Gun, all of them call themselves liberals. But what they're doing is actually empowering conservatives. So if you call yourself a liberal, but your actions actually help conservatives, are you
Right.
really a liberal or not? Your
Yes.
actions kind of prove what you really believe, in my opinion.
I think that's a good question as well. But someone we've seen who's gotten really popular in the skeptic community is Jordan Peterson, and you've made some videos opposing him, and they're pretty much the only videos opposing him almost on all of YouTube, or at least anyone significant criticizing Jordan Peterson. And I was just kind of wondering, because I think if I'm not mistaken, he's making like $100,000 a month on Patreon now,
Yes,
and
yes.
just I was wondering what your thoughts are on Jordan Peterson and the whole C16 thing, as well as just what he's been doing and his rise. What your thoughts are on that, especially because with the skeptic community starting out as being anti-Christianity, and now the skeptic community harboring someone who is kind of a constant propagator and almost like a preacher of Christianity. So I was just
A
curious your thoughts on it.
presuppositional apologist.
Yes, yes,
Just,
exactly,
exactly the kind of person that the skeptic community was created to destroy. And
exactly.
that's the same before I started. There are a few other people that are doing anti-Peterson videos, like TJ, the Amazing Atheist, has done a couple. Atheism is Unstoppable, who I don't really care for that much because I think he's sort of racist, but he has a couple anti-Peterson videos that are pretty good. And there are a couple other people that are doing it too. But you're right. Most of the skeptic community is completely silent, or they're supporting him.
Yeah.
They're outright, backing him up. Basically, Peterson is an interesting fellow because I actually think he's a really smart guy. He's an excellent performer. Basically, that's what college professors basically are. They're basically almost like stand-up comedians in a way. They're very polished performers. They're used to standing up in front of a crowd and giving long speeches, and he can recall information so quick. And he's a really good orator. But the problem is, so much of what he's saying is just utter bullshit.
Yeah.
And but the way he speaks in a language that most people are not used to. So it sounds fucking genius.
Right. Right.
Unless you actually break down what he's saying and realize it's mostly just fucking either common sense or bullshit.
Right.
That's all he does. He says incredibly simple things in incredibly complicated ways, mixed with a ton of fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And as I made a video about how he really got famous was his opposition to C16, which is a Canadian law they passed that basically adds transgender people to the list of categories you can't discriminate against. Now, you
Yeah.
can't discriminate against black people, disabled people, gay people, and now you can't discriminate against transgender people just because they're transgender. We
Right.
basically went in public and started making all these wild accusations, like you could be charged with a hate crime simply for making some fun of somebody's fashion. Total fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
And of course, he has mostly a right wing fan base, and it's riled up the right wing and created a ton of fucking hate against transgender people.
Yeah.
And so obviously he got a lot of backlash. But then, of course, the skeptic community in Peterson used this to paint himself as a victim, like they were just trying to silence his free speech, like he was this big free speech warrior. And all these skeptic channels basically went public and sold his narrative without questioning it. And he sort of got like a cult-like status from it. He skyrocketed into fame.
Absolutely cult-like status.
And so that's basically how he got his start now. Now he's into a lot of the self-help bullshit. He's basically just into Tony Robbins. But it's, it's none of it is profound or deep or anything. It's all basically the same shit that's been on motivational cat posters for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I don't really have that much. I have a little bit of problem with self-help stuff. But most of the problem I have with him is the bullshit he teaches about religion and Bill C-16 and his also his postmodernist, neo-Marxist boogeyman. He basically, like Alex Jones, had to make this boogeyman to fight. So Alex Jones created the Illuminati, this shadowy group that's going to kill us all that we have to fight against. Well, Jordan Peterson's done something very similar, except his boogeyman is the neo-Marxist postmodernist,
right,
which I find rather ridiculous. I'm going to do a few videos of that in the future, too, to explain my position on that.
Are you planning on continuing making videos, kind of rebutting him?
Yeah. I have a whole series of videos I'm planning on. I'm so lazy, unfortunately. I should be doing at least 2 videos a week, and instead I'm doing 2 a month.
Yeah, no,
because I have so much going on in my life, but
yeah,
and
I
I'm
think
late
a lot of people are looking forward to those videos.
I get busy for sure.
So a question that I had was, I know that Jordan Peterson had a debate with Matt Dillahunty, and I was wondering your thoughts on that. And it all, it's still, I did touch on it, but it still really kind of shocks me because, like I said, when the skeptic community first started, it was like Christianity is the main thing that they focused on, being anti-Christianity. But now, all of a sudden, not only are they not opposed to the person who's just constantly, spitting Christian apologetics and other things and doing all this kind of mumbo jumbo. He kind of takes something and then wraps it in something nice. He takes shit and then wraps it in something nice, and it's sort of this kind of apologetics. What do you think of the debate that he had with Matt Dillahunty, and do you think that there will be any good response from Jordan Peterson cultists or no?
I actually rewatched that last night, and I thought he got fucking destroyed by Jordan Peterson. I thought Jordan Peterson got destroyed by Matt Dillahunty, rather.
Yeah.
Sorry. And you can tell in the body language, too, Jordan Peterson was just, like, slouched over for the whole thing and just got his ass whooped by Matt Dillahunty. But the thing is the debate didn't really get seen that much. Like a Jordan Peterson video gets seen 1,000,000 times.
Right.
But, he gets his ass whooped by Matt Dillahunty, and nobody watches it. That's the sad thing. His fans, of course, don't spread it and shit because it made it look bad.
Yeah.
But you're right. To go back to why the skeptic community doesn't really challenge him as much, I think, it's because when they switched over to doing almost nothing but attacking social justice warriors, they built up a right-wing fan base. And, most of these guys are making, at least $10,000 a month on Patreon.
Yeah.
And a lot of that money is coming from their right-wing fan base. So they're kind of pigeonhole themselves now where they can't really speak out against religion and conservatism the same way they did anymore because they'll lose a lot of their money and a lot of their fan base.